Okay, so this is the mini tutorial on how to set up your media traffic account. Talk about all the steps that need to be done, and we'll go over everything that's in here. So my interface is going to look a little different from yours because if this is the first campaign you set up, you'll have two big buttons. One will be create your first campaign. The other one will be fund your account. So first you can go ahead and fund your account. It's just a matter of clicking the button, going to the funding page, and then at that point you're going to select either credit card or PayPal. Credit card, you have to submit to them a credit card authorization form, submit your ID or passport or something like that too. PayPal, I'm not sure if that's what you have to do. I haven't made an account with them in several years. Mine has been active obviously since then, so I haven't made a brand new one since then. So anyway, PayPal, I don't think you have to verify information, but I'm not entirely sure. With PayPal, it's $200 minimum deposit. Credit card, it's $100 minimum. Once you get that funded and ready to go, we will create a new campaign here. You'll just select this button, this link. You can just type in I'll put my test campaign in here, but you can put in my first campaign or whatever. Leave the daily budget set at $10 because you don't really want to spend more than that. If you're not converting that well, then feel free to do so. But most of my clients have seen at $10, it's a perfect amount to convert to the right dollar amount and earnings that you're going to make in AdSense. Frequency cap, it's set at 1 in 24 as a default. You can set it to once every 2 weeks. What this means is how many times someone will pop on your actual campaign itself, the ad that you put in there. And when I was at full scale, I would do this 1 in every 12 hours. So the person could see the same ad, the same pop-up once every 20 or 12 hours. But being that you're not scaling, you can just leave it at 2 weeks so the same person won't see your ad for another 2 weeks. You'll click country list. Depending on the country you want to send traffic from, it's set at default to United States. That's one of their higher providers. So if you want to get a better return anyway in AdSense, that kind of traffic would make sense too. But you can add your own country in there as well, or whatever countries around you. I'm not sure they have a ton of countries in here, so I can't speak highly or intelligently on how much traffic each one of these countries will generate. But I know that United States does generate a lot of traffic. But I do know the others generate traffic too. I just don't know how much. So once you select the applicable countries that you want, you just hit Save Campaign. That was just your targeting option. Go down here, just name this. I'm just going to name it my test campaign again. You can just name it whatever, my first ad or whatever you want. Same thing here for destination URL. I'm just going to put mydomain.com in there because I'm not going to just put a domain that I have in there. I'll just put a generic one. You will put your actual site domain in there. The site that you made, you will put that in there. Category, this is just, I think, a filtering thing for media traffic so they can categorize you. It doesn't really matter, I don't think, on what you put, but just to be safe, put in whatever is applicable to yours. If mine was a career one, I would put in careers for a category. So easy enough for that. Then you just hit add. What will happen at that point is you'll have a 0 for 0 showing, which means you haven't added any targets yet. Your domain doesn't need to be reviewed, but the targets that you put in there do. So what that means is, well, let's go down here. I guess let's go here first to modify. So if you want to change your domain, you would hit the modify button and you can change that. What will happen is the domain doesn't get re-reviewed. The target will get re-reviewed though. So just think about it as no matter what domain you have in there, it's the targets that are the ones that are getting reviewed. So by default, it's set to landing page and it's set to a pop-up. Leave it as such because that's the best types of creatives and pops you want. You have a test it button, and for that, you want to test out your campaign because remember, I talk about the site and then I talk about the campaign. So your site, who cares what it looks like as a pop-up because people who are popping on your URL aren't going to see your site, they're going to see your campaign. So once you have your campaign in there, I would suggest you to click the test it button and that will just simply make a pop-up come up, and at that point you can review it. And this is how it looks in this manner. It'll be a pop-up as if, like I said, yahoo.com or Yahoo is the best campaign to start with. So this background would be Yahoo, and then your pop-up would be the campaign for Yahoo. All right, and this is the exact format, window size, etc. that it'll look at. Obviously, my domain is yourdomain.com, so this site pulled up. So when you close that out, just make sure everything's centered and looks correct, because sometimes when I started this, I would upload my site and the campaign in its place, and it looked normal, but then when I did a test it, insofar as how it looked as a pop-up, it looked a little off. So then therefore make your adjustments according to what it looks like as a pop-up, not as what it looks like as a normal site. And I'm not talking about your website, I'm talking about the campaign. But because, like I said, your site is going to look normal regardless, and then AdSense is going to look at your site and see it look normal. We don't care about what your site looks like as a pop-up. We care about what the campaign looks like as a pop-up. So with this, you can select it to be a pop-up or pop under. You could do that here too. So apply to check destinations. This is a new setting. I haven't honestly made a campaign in here in a long time, because I have hundreds of campaigns already made from long time ago. So select activate, see what it does. That's just the changes you make. That's all that means. If you selected pop under, then you would hit activate, etc. So don't worry about that. You are any way you want it as a pop-up in a landing page, so it doesn't matter. You don't need to change any settings there. Click on this link here. This will bring you to, it might have done that by default anyway, but click it anyway if you need to get to this bottom part. This is your target section here. And so for instance, let's say you want to target yahoo.com. So you would just type in yahoo.com, and then you would add the target. And then now your target is pending, because like I said, they review your targets. You could do a few different variations of it, like Ymail or Yahoo. Like I said, I would suggest you start with the Yahoo campaign. So therefore, in that regard, you would use Yahoo types of targets. Whatever somebody types in their browser who has this media traffic toolbar in their computer, if they type in any part of Yahoo, as yahoo.com as a complete URL, Yahoo as a search engine, etc., you would select that here. You would want, for the URLs, you want it to say complete URL, because this will mean that it will trigger on anything that is targeted, yahoo.com/sports/news or whatever it is. It will always trigger as long as yahoo.com is in the URL. So for that, that's pretty much self-explanatory. Like I said, the minimum bid, as opposed to the video I made, it was at 2 cents per view or $20 per 1,000 views. They actually lowered it recently, so now it's at $15 per 1,000 views, or 1.5 cents per view. So you can't get any lower than this unless you, I mean, you can try and change it yourself, but that won't work anyway. They need to lower this for you, and that will come with you spending some money with them and then negotiating your price points with them to say, can I get a lower bid? And it just depends, like I said, on their business model, on what they feel. If they feel you're going to be a good advertiser, if you spent a few $100 with them, maybe 1,000 even before you ask. I have clients who have already done this and who have already asked and have already had their bids dropped. So nonetheless, this is definitely doable. It's just a matter of working with them and, you know, going through the back and forth, the dance, if you will. So that's pretty much it for there. You add these and then you hit save changes. And now you have targets added into your campaign, and it actually looks like they've already been approved. So when you go back to edit existing campaigns, oh, where did I name this one? 1 second. My test campaign. Yes. So the destination is always going to be 1-for-1 unless it's flat out rejected by them, and they will only reject destinations if they're invalid URLs, meaning the mydomain.com. They know that that's not my domain, so it was just a test one, etc. So they will reject that one. For some reason, when I put it in there, the system auto approved it, but they'll go back in and look at it and then reject it. So just keep that in mind. This right here means your targets have been approved, 3 targets, and 3 of them were approved. And you can see here we have the 0 for 0. That just means I don't have any targets in these campaigns. 0 for 1, that means one campaign, this target was disapproved. And then for the most part, all my campaigns, they have approved targets and whatnot too. So that's what the settings mean for that. As a matter of fact, one thing you want to do always is once you make a new campaign, is you want to then deactivate it. You only want to run it once you're ready, because by default it's set as active. So once they approve it, they're going to automatically start, not automatically, but they're going to start sending traffic to it once it gets in their system. So once you make it right after that point, go and set it as inactive or deactivate, etc. It doesn't delete it from the system, it just pauses it, and then when you're ready to launch it again, you would just click on it and then hit activate, etc. So now we'll go to a different part of this, which would be the run a network campaign. Let me check one thing here, because this is not a real campaign, obviously, so I'm just going to go and deactivate everything. I deactivated the top level part of the campaign, but I just want to deactivate everything else just in case. So, all right. So now another thing you can do too is, this is a little tab here, you would just select active to show what are active. So just in case if something is active, then you would see it right there. Nothing is active at this point, so therefore it doesn't show anything. All these are set as deactive. Go to run to create a run a network campaign. What this means is a run a network is there are no URL targets, meaning no yahoo.com or no Yahoo, etc. It's going to pop or be triggered on every single thing that the people in their network type in or search for. So that could be food, that could be news, that could be sports, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, any keyword, any URL, it triggers it. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is another way you can actually have a campaign work for cheaper bids. As you can see here, this is just a $4 per 1,000 views, or a 4 cent per view, or actually it's less than that. Well, anyway, yeah, it's less than that. 0.4 of a cent, I would say. But anyway, let's just keep it on per 1,000 views. It's a $4 per 1,000 views as opposed to the $15 one. So right there you get 3 times less you're paying for the traffic. But the caveat to that is that you get all kinds of traffic. You can't target based upon just Yahoo pop-ups, etc. So let's just, it's the same process of how you run it. You name it, you select the budget, you select the frequency cap, you select country list, you select category, advanced features, that's just, I never even use that, start date, end date. Destination URL, this will be the same URL that you put in for the other campaign, meaning the site that you have, the domain for it. And landing page as a pop-up, same thing too. Budget, just keep it at $4. You don't need to bid anymore. It will send you a ton of traffic. So you have to monitor it and see if, for one, if it converts, but two, if it's sending over. I know somebody ran it and it sent him too much traffic, even though his budget was only set at $10. So maybe if you refresh your page, it will say it spent $3, and at that point pause it, because their system doesn't give you real-time stats. So at that point pause it, and then it probably will stop exactly around the $10 mark or whatever the case is. So just to give you the heads up on how that works. So the beauty of it is, with a run a network campaign, is that you have to think in terms of what will people be most targeted to, like what things do they all have in common. So you have to think of things, what do they visit mostly? Well, people mostly visit, for instance, Google, or they visit Facebook, or whatever else that you think the most common thing someone will go to, because this campaign will then apply to them. You can't just have some, let's say, a Craigslist campaign, because as you saw in the tutorial video, I have Bing, MSN, Craigslist, etc. You can't just put a Craigslist campaign in this type of scenario, because not many people will actually have used Craigslist. So think of things in terms of what will apply to most people. Facebook is a good example. So therefore, you would just set your URL in there as the same, your site. but the only difference is that the campaign is now Facebook. It's not Yahoo, because not as many people will use Yahoo. Facebook, a lot of people use, and therefore you'll get a good ROI in that case as well. So that's just an example of, if you want to try this as opposed to doing a targeted version, then feel free to do so. You get less per 1,000 views, obviously 3 times less, so that's really beneficial to you. The click-through rate's a little less, maybe 1.5 to 2%, but if you look at the numbers right there, it converts better then. So let's move on. Funding, like I said, you need to just click on funding and go into your account and fund it. Detailed reports. Once you start generating traffic, you will have the reports show up right here. You can select ranges, periods, today, yesterday, this week, last week. You can do the range and just hit apply. It'll pull it up. You will also see from when you go to account summary, that's your main homepage, just like the one you saw when I first started this video. You'll see your daily spend, how much your balance that you have left, what you're typically spending per day, and all that good stuff. So you can look at your reporting from there or through these reports themselves. I just use the main interface and just do a refresh, and then when I see I spent $10, I know, okay, well, I'm starting to send traffic now, etc. The one thing I want to touch upon is, well, let's just go here. ROI tracking report or tracking setup, I never use that. I never use the outbid report because you're bidding minimum bid and you're bidding sometimes even less than minimum. So those don't matter. History is just going to show you the funding that you've done in your account, etc. These are all pretty self-explanatory at this point. One thing I want to talk to you about is the time of when media traffic launches campaigns, because you may get confused. So media traffic has checkpoints in their system. I talked about this in the first tutorial, but I'll touch upon it again. They have checkpoints in their system, and what that means is if I was to start one of my campaigns right now, it would not, it's 10 a.m. right now, it would not get activated into their system until the next checkpoint, and that is the 10:45 to 10:50 checkpoint. Now, I say that, but the true checkpoint is about 10:30. But you don't know that until it gives you the first system stat refresh, because there's a delay like 15 minutes on refreshing your stats. So it's starting to send you traffic at 10:30, but you're not going to even see the update until 10:45, 10:50. So what happens is, if I launch it right now, I can expect to have the traffic start at 10:30. But if I launched it at after 10:15, I won't expect to receive traffic until the 11:30 checkpoint. So it happens every hour at that 30 after the hour mark. And you don't see the stats until the 45:50 after the hour mark. Okay. So in that regard, when I send traffic, or when I start the campaign and it starts sending traffic, when you want to do your switch is before the 30 after the hour mark, because you're going to be, let's say, in your media traffic account, waiting for it to say how much have you spent before you start switching your site over to the campaign. But when it gives you the first system refresh, you would have already spent $3 or $4 or $5, and then you sent it to your site. So you want to be ahead of that. So always make sure that you switch your site out to the campaign before the 30 after the hour mark. And when you start the campaign, make sure you always start it before the 15 after the hour mark. That is the absolute deadline. If you do it at 10:16, let's say, if I was to do it, it wouldn't go into their next checkpoint until 11:30, and then I wouldn't see the stats until 11:45, 11:50, etc. So just keep that in mind. So what that means, if you go further than before 10 o'clock, let's say to 9:45, if I started it, that just means that I'm going to be in that 10:15 checkpoint deadline, and my account, the campaign, will start generating traffic at 10:30. I'll start seeing traffic or the stats at 10:45 to 10:50. All right. So just think about it as those 3 checkpoints, that you have the 15 after, the half hour after, and the 45 and 50 after the hour. So we have the deadline, the time that the stats or the traffic starts coming in, and then the time that the stats start to report on that, those 3 checkpoints. Let me see what else. Oh yeah, the only other thing I want to touch upon is sometimes media traffic lags, so they don't get you in for some reason on that first checkpoint, even though you started it, let's say, at 10 o'clock like I did. You wouldn't start it at 10 a.m. anyway. It depends, I guess, on where your AdSense team is located, but let's just talk about hypotheticals here. If I started it at 10 a.m., I wouldn't sometimes media traffic is lagging and I wouldn't get the campaign in at that 10:45 to 10:50. The stats wouldn't change at all. Sometimes it takes a few hours. It's just a glitch in their system and I have no control over it, just like nobody else does. Um, so you just need to keep aware of that, sometimes you'll see, okay, I'm getting traffic when I'm supposed to. Sometimes it won't be until the checkpoint after. So even though I got it in right now, it may not get in until the 11:45, 11:50 stat refresh, or sometimes it may take a few hours longer than that. You can always put an email into media traffic to ask them, but I've done this several times and I only get back the answer of leave your campaign on for 12 hours, 24 hours. It'll get in their system. And that is very true. However, you can't just stand by that long. So you either have to leave your campaign set to active always and have it set as a $10 daily budget, and then deal with when it kicks on and whatnot. And that more or less deals with a new day and media traffic. So you spend $10 for today, let's say. Media traffic will then, right when a new day hits, it will start sending you traffic again at that next checkpoint guaranteed, because I've already tested that. As opposed to you send the $10 in traffic, you manually turn it off, and then you manually turn it on when you're ready to send traffic again. That's where it gets the glitch where media traffic for some reason can't get your campaign back into their system sometimes right away. However, if you leave your campaign set to active and you have a $10 daily budget, it automatically shuts itself off, but it's still in the rotation of campaigns in their system. So therefore, once a new day hits in their system, it will always get turned on itself right away. But you need to make sure you know what that time is. You need to make sure you do your site, you switch to the campaign, etc. I'm just trying to give you the different options that you have. Most people just do the manual turn on, turn off, and that's exactly what I did. I think it's just easier to manage. You just have to deal sometimes with media traffic not turning it on or giving you traffic right away. And that may mean staying up a few hours later just waiting for the stupid thing to work. What I would recommend is if it doesn't give you traffic within the second checkpoint when it was supposed to on the first, if it doesn't do it on the second go around, it won't do it for several hours. That's what I've seen. I've seen it not do it on the first, but it did it on the second. But I've never seen it do it on the third or whatever. It takes like 5 or 6 hours and then it gets, for some reason, filtered in. So that is the mini tutorial. I hope I covered everything enough insofar as the visual on what you need to do. If you need more questions, we'll do it on Skype and go from there. Thank you for your time.